Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford here, and this is going to just be an update video to my current health situation. So if you don't care about that, go ahead and click away. No hard feelings. I know that this kind of video is not exciting to a lot of people, but for those of you that are staying, thank you. I appreciate your concern. And let me say this. I really am blown away by all the well wishes that I got on my last video. I was not expecting that kind of a response. So thank you so much. I do appreciate it, each and every one of you. Your thoughts and prayers are very much appreciated. And I promise you that as long as I am able, I will continue to update you as to my current situation and hopefully recovery from it. And as you might have inferred from that, some of what's going on is still kind of in the dark. So we don't know everything just yet. However, we do have some new information, and so I wanted to share that with you. Over this week, had a couple more tests, including a CAT scan, which I have to say, this is the first time I've ever had a CAT scan. I've had MRIs in the past, but I've never had a CAT scan before. Man, CAT scan is so much nicer than an MRI. Just saying. Just so much nicer. Anyway, so to kind of recap, before, what happened was when I went in, I initially went into the doctor for a perforated eardrum, and in the process of looking over everything, the doctor thought that maybe the perforation was actually because of pressure coming from my sinuses. To really get a good picture of that, they wanted to do an MRI. When they did the MRI, they detected abnormalities on the brain, so they referred me to neurology to follow up with that. And also they wanted me to do a CAT scan on my sinus area to get more information there. So since then, I have I've seen the neurologist. I've also seen the ear, nose, and throat specialist again, had a CAT scan of my sinus area. And so a couple of things are for sure, and a couple of things are still question marks. So number one, the perforated eardrum is almost definitely a direct result of pressure from my sinuses pushing on my inner ear, which in turn created additional pressure. So the rupture that happened to happen when I was cleaning my ear was more or less just a symptom of the problem. That was not the problem itself. And they're going to do a couple of things because the inner ear area after the CAT scan, they've determined there's a lot of fluid backed up in there. And so they are going to do the old thing where they put a tube in your ear and that's going to be there for like a couple of years, and what they're saying, to kind of take care of the inner ear problem. And they think that that will take care of the inner ear problem. So, but the problem is it's just going to continue because of the pressure coming from my sinuses. Now, those of you that have followed me for any length of time, especially in my live streams, will probably know that for about the last year to 18 months or so, I've been complaining about my sinuses, attributing it to allergies. I've gone to my primary care physician complaining about my sinuses and my allergies and what can I do? And his solution has been basically prescription strength nasal sprays and stuff like that. And this guy's like, I don't think that's the problem, and that's part of the reason they did this CAT scan. So they do a CAT scan, and I am no medical professional. I don't work in the medical field at all. I did a very long time ago work briefly for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oregon, but that's as close to the medical industry as I've ever been. And but I was never like examining MRI reports or anything like that. However, when he showed me the MRI, it took me all of about 30 seconds to see exactly what the problem was. And I mean, he described it, but it was pretty obvious on the screen right there in front of us. And so when you look at an MRI, it's kind of it's almost like a three-dimensional X-ray. So solid white is bone, solid black is empty space. And so you would expect to see, when you're looking like top down, it kind of does it in layers, but top down, when you get to the area where your sinuses are, you expect to see like two big areas of solid black right here where your sinus cavities are. I also learned something else interesting, is that you actually have more than 2 sinus cavities. I didn't know that. So you have your left and right sinus cavities that are right back here, but there's also one right here. It's called your frontal sinus cavity, and I don't have one, which is just, I'm a mutant. So there you go. It is a mutation, but it's a relatively common one. About 4% of people actually do not have a frontal sinus cavity. They have solid bone there in their forehead, where other people have an empty space there for a sinus cavity. Who knew? Well, doctors, but not me. I didn't know that. Anyway, so when they looked at the sinus cavities, it became painfully obvious as to what's going on. So on the right side, I think, I'm trying to remember the way it was looking. Yeah, it's the right side. It looked pretty much normal. You would see an empty space where you would expect to see an empty space. On the left side, however, completely full. Like not white, not like bone, but with a light gray, meaning that there is soft tissue there. And that's not just like mucus, although mucus fills some of the space in there. It's due to what they found, polyps and stuff inside of there that's just basically completely filled the sinus cavity. And that's what's been causing my sinus pressure, various headache issues that I've had over the last few years. And probably contributes to the fact that I have sleep apnea and sometimes trouble breathing. So that's all of that is related to this. And in fact, the pressure in this sinus cavity is so great that when you look at your septum, which is like the dividing line between the 2 sinuses, you see, if you see a skull, you see that little line in the middle. It's kind of actually that way, bowed over because there's so much pressure. It's pushing the other sinus cavity, making basically one cavity that's actually under pressure, doing the work of 2, and also obviously creating backwards pressure into the inner ear, and that's where those problems start arising. So what do they do with all that? Well, lucky me, I get to go under the knife again. And this is a full-on surgical procedure. This isn't some little thing where they just poke a little thing up your nose. This is, they put you under full anesthetic, and they go in there and they're going to surgically remove all of the polyps and stuff from that sinus cavity, and then basically do a little bit of reconstructive surgery to fix the septum, which should definitely help with my breathing and stuff. And that in turn will relieve the pressure on the inner ear. That combined with the tube in my ear is going to, at least they sound extremely confident that this is going to resolve my sinus issues and some of my hearing issues. So I have been affected by some hearing loss, and he said that will almost certainly improve. The tinnitus issue, it's hard to say because there are multiple causes of tinnitus, and it would depend on if that's actually what's causing the additional tinnitus. So that they're not 100% sure on. So that's where we're at with the sinus part. So I'm now waiting to hear from the doctor's scheduler, the surgeon's scheduler, I should say, and they told me that I'll probably be able to schedule the surgery within the next couple of weeks. I will definitely keep you guys posted as to when the surgery is, so that anybody who is a believer, please keep me in your prayers during that time. This will be my 4th, I want to say, 4th major, let me see. Appendectomy, colectomy, and I want to say there was another one, wasn't there? Yeah, 5th major surgery in my life. 1 is enough. I don't need any more surgeries. I really don't. Anyway, so that's the sinuses. What about the brain issue? Because I'm still feeling easily confused, having a lot of difficulty focusing, sometimes slurring my speech, wobbly walking around. I don't, and my motor skills are completely jacked up. The slightest thing as far as movement and stuff causes extreme fatigue. And all of these are conducive to a neurological disorder having nothing to do with the sinus issue. So we're still doing tests on that side. And so the neurologist that I spoke with has basically narrowed it down to 3 main possibilities, and 2 of which I can't remember for the life of me what they were called. She's told me in our visit, but I'm not good with medical terminology, not gonna lie. Now one of the 3 is the one that I initially heard and was terrified of, and that is MS. Now MS is still on the table as far as one of the potential causes of the neurological problems. And I will tell you that the way she described these 3 conditions, the other 2 are a little less common than MS, and that's why I can't remember the name, because it's not something that's in the everyday vernacular. But I remember one of them starts with an R. I don't even remember what the other one was. But MS, of the 3, the interesting thing is that MS is kind of the middle ground. And so, like, MS is... obviously it's incurable at this point. However, it is, to varying degrees of success, treatable. Depends, different individuals have differing sets of symptoms and also have differing reactions to various pharmaceutical treatments. So if it is MS, it's a mixed bag, because on the one hand, unless there's a major breakthrough in the next few years, it's something you're going to live with for the rest of your life. On the other hand, if they can find a drug cocktail that works for you, you may be able to have a decent quality of life even with it. So that's kind of the mixed bag of it. There's the other 2, there's one that's worse and one that's better. Unfortunately, all 3 of them, my understanding is that none of them have a straight up cure. However, the one that's better is basically very responsive to drug therapy and is not rapidly degenerative like the other one. The other one tends to degenerate things very quickly, and the treatments are rather sparse. And so that's kind of worst case scenario. And that, I really don't want to deal with. So that's, in a nutshell, where the healthcare part is at. I will ask again, and I know I said this before, but if you are a believer, I would ask that you keep me in your prayers, because I truly appreciate it, and I do believe that God hears our prayers. Sometimes the answer isn't what we want it to be, but I do believe that he hears us. I also, I will tell you that as far as where I'm coming from a personal level, the difficulty here for me is not the pain or the physical struggles. I mean, yes, those are major inconveniences, to be sure. The fact that I have to sit in this chair rather than my office chair, that I love my office chair, but I can't sit in it very well anymore because it's just no longer something that's I can sit in comfortably. Those are inconveniences and annoyances. The thing that really drives me crazy about this is the idea of not being able to take care of my family. I've always been the familial provider. And ironically, because my son and my wife are both disabled. My daughter doesn't live with us, she lives across the country, but my son and my wife are both disabled and unable to work. And so I've been the only person to take care of the family. And if this worst case scenario, if I am unable to return to work, then while my work history is good and I would qualify for benefits from Social Security Administration, those benefits would be about $1,000 less than what we would need to continue to pay the bills, and that does not take into account the fact that we'll have to add health care to our list of out-of-pocket expenses. On top of that, we have spent in excess of $1,000 so far, just with all the tests and the doctor's visits and all that. And don't worry, I'm not sitting here begging for help or anything right now. We're doing what we can to, going through what money we've got, asking for help from various groups, and we're, if it comes down to it, I may end up here on YouTube begging for help, but I hope it doesn't come to that, because I certainly don't want to do that. But that's the scary thing to me. That is the idea that I'm not being a proper provider to my family. And so that drives me crazy. I want to be a good provider to my wife and my son, and ultimately my daughter, even though she lives on the other side of the country. I'm looking at things like, okay, even basic things like while this chair is tolerable to me, I can sit in it for a decent length of time without it hurting too bad. But getting in and out of the chair is extremely difficult. So I'm going to have to get one of those lift chairs, that old people use. It's a recliner basically that can lift you up. But if I'm going to get one of those chairs, I need to make sure that I get one that has a decent lumbar support and all that, so that I'm not don't get a chair that I have to replace in 6 months. And those things are expensive. I mean, the cheap ones, the cheapest one I found that could possibly do the job, and I don't even know if it's comfortable enough to handle, but the cheapest one I found that could possibly do the job is like almost $500, and that's money I just don't have to spend. To get one that would probably last a long time and everything, we're talking about $2,000, $2,500. That ain't gonna happen. And so, I don't want to spend that kind of money on a chair. My office that I'm in right now is currently upstairs in our home. That's going to have to change. I've already been talking to my son about moving things around the house. So we're going to basically take the dining room that we have and move it. Honestly, we never eat at the dining room table anyway, so it's no big loss. But we have an antique dining room table that was been in my family for about 100 years. Take that out of the dining room, put it in storage in the garage. And then basically we'll have to get one of those lift chairs, set that up in there, move my computer into that room, and that will become my new office. I'm thankful that we have that room, and that's assuming, of course, that we're in a position to continue to pay the mortgage and we don't lose the house. But I'm just thinking about these changes, and it's terrifying. And it's unnerving, but I will press on. And as long as I'm able, I will continue to communicate with you guys, as long as things don't get so bad that I'm simply unable to. Now, I will tell you a couple of minor changes. As much as I hate to do this, I'm going to have to probably shut down my Twitch channel and start a new Twitch channel. I don't want to do that, but I don't see a logical alternative. And that's simply because I have to be prepared for the eventuality that I will be having to apply for Social Security. If that is the case, then I need to make sure that the channel is in the name of Mrs. Anti-Tracker. And the reason for that is because it's perfectly okay for her to get an income from a source like Twitch or YouTube or whatever, and it will not affect my Social Security disability benefits. But if it's in my name, then they want to hold that against you. So with YouTube, it's easy. YouTube, you can actually transfer the ownership of a channel from one person to another. In Twitch, you can't, that I can find. If somebody knows how to do it, please send me a direct message on Twitch and let me know, because I would very much appreciate knowing how to do that. Because even though I know it's just basically a stupid legalese thing where you have to, it's just like, and married couples have to deal with this kind of stuff all the time, where, oh, you have to make sure you put this bill in this person's name so that this person doesn't get disqualified for something. It's just stupid the way that we do these things, but that's what we got to do. And unfortunately, because Mrs. Anti-Tracker's work history is so sparse, she wouldn't qualify for Social Security disability benefits anyway. So putting all that in her name won't impact her income or her ability to get benefits from the government. However, it would impact me or Joshua, because both of us will be at that point be on Social Security disability. I really hate that prospect, but if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do. Anyway, guys, more on that as it comes. Don't know what that was, but more on that as it comes, and take care.